Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so today we're going to be talking all about 2025 for Aquarius. Yes, we're going to be exploring the year ahead for you, Aquarius. We're going to get into it. Now, before we do, if you benefit from this video today, then please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more. And if you would like to book a reading with me, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find the astrology products I offer. Okay, well, I just want to mention then, Aquarius, that if Aquarius is on the rising sign, okay, you've got Aquarius rising in your chart, this video is going to resonate the most for you. So do keep that in mind. But I also recommend watching if the sun or moon are in the sign of Aquarius in your chart. So especially here, if the sun is in Aquarius and you've got a day chart, you may really resonate with the information. And especially if the moon is in Aquarius and you have a night chart, similar thing. Just really depends. When it comes to reading for the sun, moon, and rising, they all serve different purposes. But I would still say here that the rising is going to resonate the most, more than likely. And just to also mention that if you're reading for the sun, remember the sun represents your soul's purpose. It's more of that conscious part of you. And if you're reading for the moon, we want to think about your emotions, your inner world, and the unconscious part of you. So with that being explained, so you know, hopefully, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Aquarius. Naturally, this is more about celebrating 2025, but the astrological new year begins at the start of Aries season. So therefore, whenever we come into 2025, we see here that actually, Aquarius, the sun is in your 12th house. So the sun is in Capricorn in the 12th. Therefore, as you enter 2025, it would behoove you perhaps to reflect, to contemplate, to go within. And, that I feel, especially 2024 to 2025, that I feel is quite important because Mars will also be retrograde, and it's pretty retrograde heavy. Let's just put it that way. And we'll touch more on Mars retrograde in just a moment. Still, take the time, Aquarius, rest when you can, re-strategize, see what comes through when it comes to spirituality, your dreams, synchronicities. Perhaps many things will come up with relation to success or status or recognition in some way, shape, or form. Then, whenever we get to the astrological new year, right, we come to Aries season, and the sun then will be in your third. And so with the sun in your third house coming into the astrological new year, that will be more about, okay, it is time to really consider communication, what you're learning, things that you're researching, and being a bit of a leader there, being a bit of a trailblazer, which also we are going to explore more because some interesting transits are happening in the sign of Aries throughout 2025. Okay, so with that being said, January. Let's get into January. What is up ahead coming into 2025? So previously I mentioned that Mars will be retrograde. So Mars is retrograde in Leo. I'm just going to actually put my glasses on here. Mars is retrograde in Leo from the 6th of December until the 6th of January. So Mars retrograde in Leo basically activates this 7th house arena. Therefore, what's important to keep in mind as we come into the new year, Aquarius, is that it's actually through the other that you're going to learn a great deal about yourself. Maybe this within itself is an opportunity for you to think about and consider your goals, your drive, your energy levels, and how such matters are, as I say, how they show up within your relationships, through your relationships, reflected. It's almost like these things are reflected back at you. So we could see you hopefully being inspired or stepping up to some kind of challenge, but just take the time. Okay, take the time to review where you're at when it comes to relating, collaborating. I mean, this could even be a business situation. Maybe you are strongly considering, especially toward the end of 2024, you're strongly considering, right, okay, who do I want to work with? Which kinds of people do I want to have on my team, so to speak? Maybe it is specifically about one-to-one partnerships here. So yes, take the time, go over things and reassess, right, energetically, what's coming up for me. And hey, this could also be about how you create greater balance, greater harmony in your life. So with Mars being retrograde, perhaps this is about assessing how you can conserve your energy, how you can protect it. And by having that analysis, and keep in mind that, a lot of that could be unconscious. These themes could be unconscious, those unconscious drives and motivations with the seventh. But still, this could be where energetically you feel a lot more aligned, a lot more like you can take on potential new projects later on, or like you're more intentional. There's greater intention about the next step. Even think about it with Mars ruling your third and Mars ruling your 10th. A lot of this stuff could be about your professional lives, how you show up publicly. Could also be some significant goal setting within your local area or when it comes to education. Then from the 6th of January until the 23rd of February, it is quite a long Mars retrograde, folks. Yes, so throughout this time period, Mars retrograde will come into your 6th. So this part of the retrograde is going to be quite notable with respect to your work, your services, your day-to-day. So thinking even about your productivity levels, your stress levels, how you show up when it comes to coworker partnerships and colleague relationships there. This could also be about how you managing your time, managing your schedules. With Mars being retrograde in Cancer, yes, things can become overwhelming or quite moody, but there is still that tenacious quality to Mars in Cancer. And what will be a big focus, I suppose, is that of emotional security. So think about these things too, right? Even think about how Mars in Cancer, and Cancer is a cardinal sign. This is about showing up as a leader, to be this intuitive leader, to feel into things more so. So we want to hopefully see you, Aquarius, reflecting upon things like your workflow, your daily habits, what works best for you. And again, because Mars rules the 10th and the 3rd houses, I can't help but think that a lot of this will speak to your career, your life's work, your life's mission. And thinking also about your reputation, what you become known for. All of the investigative stuff there with Scorpio in the 10th. Before we move on, I just want to highlight that I have basically laid out the path of Mars. So Mars begins, yes, from the retrograde motion in Leo back into Cancer, but then when Mars does turn direct on the 23rd of February, Mars will travel through all of these other signs, if you can see, going above the horizon. Therefore, for you, Aquarius, I can't help but think that when it comes to your goals, your willpower, your drive, things like this, my word, a lot of this is going to be about your public presence and being, hey, rather ambitious, really going for it. So moving on, we want to explore the nodes. The nodes are changing. The nodes will change on the 11th of January from North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, to the North Node in Pisces, to the South Node in Virgo. Now, since July of 2023, the nodes have been in the 3rd and 9th houses for you, Aquarius. And so for the past 18 months, you have been really focusing on your studies and your education, but you've also been drawing from gifts and talents with respect to broadcasting and publishing. I think a lot of themes to do with marketing, data, research, just a lot of learning and educating yourself, but also considering how you promote yourself, how you show up then maybe within the online worlds. Naturally, this could be about social media when we consider the modern day, but this stuff could also be related to becoming qualified within a particular subject area, and you getting those credentials and maybe publishing some sort of book or novel. This could also be about you taking on higher education programs or wanting to teach others, things like that. So indeed, just a lot of learning, expanding your horizons, expanding your mind, and trying things outside of your comfort zone as well, in quite a, I would say, an eloquent way. Now, the other thing to mention about this is throughout the process, remember that Chiron has also been in Aries for a good few years. And so therefore, you've been addressing some heavier things. You've been addressing some challenging ways, perhaps, that you speak to yourself. Could be a lot to do with your mental well-being that you've addressed, which you have perhaps been, you've been a pioneer. You've been quite the leader, and you've been courageous enough to face the pain, to face the rejections or the previous times that you were denied, criticized. And it's interesting because I have put here in my notes that Aquarius 2025 is a year of speaking confidently. Speaking confidently. And I'll explain more of why that is as we go on. But just remember that the North Node in Aries has been a part of this. I think that this has been your opportunity to really consider what you think. And you're all about that, right? You're all about independent thought, freedom when it comes to the things so freedom when it comes to your views, right? Your own personal views and opinions, and being daring enough to innovate, to say the thing, to learn the thing that maybe other people aren't saying or learning. Now, from the 11th of January then, for the next 18 months, the nodes change. So what we're actually going to see is a lot of focus going into that of your financial world. We think about your physical belongings, materials, possessions, things like that. At the same time, with Pisces being there, there is something intangible about all of this, which is interesting to think about, especially because Saturn has been in your second house since March of 2023. And so Saturn coming along has sort of ushered in this more physical approach of, okay, you maybe have these dreams, these aspirations related to your finances. You may have maybe like a figure, for example, in your mind of how much you want to make or how much you want to save, as an example. But Saturn coming along has acted as this force of, well, you can't just dream about it all day long. You have to actually do something. You have to actually put those building blocks in place. So therefore, the North Node comes in, interestingly, and speaks more to this. The North Node also highlights this flow, this spiritual essence, this ability to let go, to surrender in some way, shape, or form, whenever we consider the things that you actually can't control when it comes to the material world. And I think also the North Node in the second house will speak to your self-worth and how maybe this is pointing to some healthy detachment, healthy spiritual insights and wisdom when it comes to your self-worth. Yes, there is a more of a gentle tenderness to Pisces, which hopefully can manifest, these qualities can manifest when it comes to your self-worth. At the same time, with the South Node being in Virgo in the 8th, well, this is going to be an interesting thing because whilst you're moving towards that North Node, you're also considering your intensities, these intense emotions and feelings that can actually at times take over or lead to you being obsessive or freaking out or worrying. And I'm talking about extreme cases of worry here with the 8th house. Yet, the beauty about this is your ability to transform. So, for example, any fault finding or perfectionistic tendencies that can actually hold you back from growth, hey, you could possibly transform. You could possibly channel that energy into something or transmute it. But yet, here's the other thing, that the other beautiful part about the South Node in Virgo is you can draw from your gifts and your talents when it comes to the occult, when it comes to alchemy, the paranormal, spiritual subjects, because with Virgo in the 8th, you can make things practical, simplified, easy to understand for people. So the South Node can maybe point towards some interesting gifts, and you can embrace those, own those. And hey, you know what? We could also look at this as healthy organizational skills and productivity with relation to shared accounts, joint finances. Maybe this could be an interesting year for you financially, actually, Aquarius. But I think a big part of that is it's about having this wit or knowledge to inform yourself, to come from a place of, okay, I know what goes where. I know how to manage things here. Okay, so moving on. What we also see is one of your rulers, Uranus, turning direct on the 30th of January. So Uranus is retrograde from the 1st of September until the 30th of January. So the Uranus retrograde throughout this period has been your opportunity, Aquarius, to go over, okay, well, what has happened unexpectedly when it comes to my family life, my living situation, all the home stuff, and also what about breakthroughs with relation to my emotional comforts, my emotional habits and needs and attachments? Perhaps with Uranus being in your 4th, there has been some healthy detachment that has been quite useful to you, especially, for example, being able to detach from certain family relationships that, well, they're not comforting. They're not necessarily good for your body. Thinking here along the lines of you feeling safe. But you see, with Uranus turning direct on the 30th of January, hopefully you can move forward with greater insight, seeing how things have changed, which kinds of shakeups and breakthroughs have happened, and then you can maybe move with greater intention or focus or realization. Maybe there's even an awakening moment, an aha moment, and things become a bit more clearer for you. There's more naturally that I could say about each section, but just to say that this is the yearly overview. And perhaps we will get more into the transits as we go along throughout the horoscopes, because I explore the horoscope season by season. So moving on to February. What is coming up in February? So Jupiter turns direct in your 5th house on the 4th of February. Right. Jupiter retrograde has been from the 9th of October until the 4th of February. And with the Jupiter retrograde in your 5th house, this has been an opportunity for you to consider, right, how have I grown thus far? Which opportunities have been presented to me this far? When it comes to things like fun, enjoyment, leisure activities, hobbies, the things that light me up here, what I genuinely enjoy doing. And with Gemini in the 5th, Aquarius, you tend to be interested in mentally stimulating activities. Activities that can challenge your mind, can create more flexibility and adaptability there, but also activities that are quite lighthearted and fun and social. I think about gaming. I even think selfishly here, just to say, with my son being in Aquarius, I do remember with Jupiter entering Gemini a few months back, I was playing more video games and I felt like that was very Gemini in the 5th. Still, Jupiter retrograde has been an opportunity to reassess these areas, to reconsider, right, okay, well, when it comes to a hobby or a creative project, what am I trying to say? What's the communication there? What's my message? And how can I understand that message? Not just talk about it, but how can I understand it and how can I align with it? What about my own experiences? How do I live here through it? So with the information, it's more about walking the walk instead of talking the talk. And also drawing maybe from some old sources of inspiration as a way to help you get there. So therefore, when Jupiter turns direct on the 4th of February, you may find that you're eager and you're excited about moving forward with these creative projects with a newfound hope, with a new sense of purpose and focus, and feeling somewhat blessed or like, yes, I can draw from these talents. Thank you, Jupiter, for blessing me, so to speak. And you could also perhaps look at it as greater fun and play and lightheartedness romantically. Because the 5th house is also about romantic relationships, right? Oh, and with Jupiter ruling your 11th and 2nd houses, we could also view this through a lens of community and how you earn money. So certain creative projects that earn you some income or some form of entertainment or hobby, something you enjoy that is done in community, that involves a group or a club as examples. Moving on to Mars direct. Mars will turn direct on the 23rd of February in your 6th. Therefore, after that period of just reassessing, okay, what about my schedules? What about my daily habits and routines? What about the way I show up within my relationships? Maybe a part of the Mars influence in the 7th also speaks to how you assert yourself within business deals. So, hopefully, after a good, honest period of self reflection, being able to conserve your energy, being able to hold fire when you need to, but equally knowing when to move with intention. Well, when Mars turns direct, hopefully you can indeed move forward with victory, so to speak, or moving forward with this greater awareness and recognition with relation to your drive, your willpower, and your goal setting, especially within these areas related to your routines, your daily habits, your productivity levels, and also, hey, we could look at this as health related subjects. Do keep in mind that the post shadow period of Mars will be from the 23rd of February until the 2nd of May. So use that time period just to mull things over, to tie up any other loose ends, and see what else can come through. Maybe it's important to integrate, to stay with things that a little bit longer, or just to see what else could maybe add to your experience. Moving to March, and March is going to be such an active month. A lot is happening. Yes, a lot is happening. So many retrogrades here at the beginning of the year. Right, so here we see a quick calendar. Venus retrograde in Aries, Mercury retrograde in Aries. They both move into Pisces. And at the same time, it will be eclipse season. Wow. And on top of that, Neptune enters Aries after being in Pisces for the past, 14 years or so, I think. So many changes are coming, but I do want to highlight with Neptune that this will just be for a short period of time, and the full transit will be from 2026. Right. Let's explore Venus. So Venus retrograde will be from the 1st of March until the 12th of April. Venus retrograde will be in Aries in your 3rd from the 1st of March until the 27th of March. During this period, Aquarius, hopefully what you can do is you can take some time to review your education, your research, how you can speak from a place of confidence, and how you can attract people with your message. Maybe even considering the kinds of money that you earn or make through how you educate. Or we could even look at this as you reassessing some sibling relationships. And I'm going to say this, with Venus being in detriment in Aries, this stuff could possibly point toward anger, frustration, disagreement, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But the point I'm trying to get to here, Aquarius, is sure, maybe some sibling rivalry could play out. Or perhaps this could also be about cousins, neighbors. But I'm also really thinking, I would say more so family. I think it's a lot to do with family members, because Taurus is Venus ruled, and Taurus rules your fourth. And at the same time, we could see this as you being a bit at odds with teachers, mentors, professors, educators, because, Libra does rule your ninth as well. So sure, there could be some form of rivalry or heated discussions, maybe competitive tendencies there as well. But yet, we could also look at this through a lens of greater unity and hopefully more so addressing things diplomatically. Just, taking that time to review where you're at socially. Perhaps a lot of this boils down to how you socialize, how you cooperate, how you collaborate with others, and that may be a process. That could actually be quite an effective thing with Venus retrograde being in the third during that time period. So you can maybe just use that period to effectively say, right, which kinds of people do I want to collaborate with and share with? Who do I feel like is on my team? But you can also equally look at it as, I'm not really aligned with these people over here. And just take your time, weigh things out, maybe try to find some healthy balance within it all. But also we can look at it through a lens of creativity, right? Creativity. So some art form and how you deliver your creative ideas, how you communicate them, how you present them. Good way for you to go over all of the beautifying stuff, the aesthetic stuff, the appearance of things. And you never know, perhaps through such an assessment, so to speak, you discover how you can communicate rather sensually, or how you can communicate where people connect with your message. Maybe because of personal experiences you share, for example, people relate to that a lot more. Okay, then from the 27th of March until the 12th of April, Venus retrograde comes into the second. And Venus in Pisces takes on more of a serene, calm feel. And keep in mind that Venus is exalted in Pisces. So perhaps this part of Venus retrograde will invite you to go within and to reflect upon more of this calmness, this ability to surrender to the unknown with relation to your finances or your physical security. Or we could look at this as you practicing a great deal of self-compassion when it comes to your self-worth. Okay, being kind to yourself, and maybe too considering what the dream is. Your dreams when it comes to finances and earnings. That is something that I previously touched on with Saturn moving through the second, and how Saturn has acted as more of a force of realism and structure, and saying, okay, well, you also have to think about the building blocks here. But Venus still points towards hopefully a healthy dose of imagination, some healthy dose of escapism too. So maybe pondering over, right, what is my vision? What do I visualize when I think about my finances, material success, for example, my security, how I can support myself, how I can provide for others? And with Saturn being in the second, sure, such matters have been tough. My goodness, it's been a bit challenging for you. Well, very challenging, perhaps financially speaking. But we could also maybe look at it as Saturn has been laying the foundation. And so Venus coming along could perhaps just invite more of a review, a re-examination, a reassessment of the very foundation, and to also then further think about, well, creatively speaking, I can see a different path, or I can appreciate what I've learned. And even though maybe many things have not worked out the way I wanted, the way I really anticipated or hoped for, that's maybe okay. It's just, I think Venus in Pisces is going to be, it's going to provide more of a tender support. And this is more about seeking truth from within and being open to change, being open to maybe a new way of defining what material success, what security success is to you, Aquarius. And I also think here that such matters are tied to things like housing, property, your living situation, your family, and also things related to what you broadcast and publish, what you share with others, how you share knowledge, and how you expand your mind. So then, Mercury retrograde is from the 15th of March until the 7th of April in Aries and Pisces. Very interesting to see this crossover between Venus and Mercury retrograde. Right. Mercury retrograde in Aries will be from the 15th of March until the 29th of March. And then in Pisces, so Mercury will come into Pisces from the 29th of March until the 7th of April. So what I'm just going to highlight about Mercury is Mercury's going to bring more of this mental piece to the conversation. So your thoughts regarding how you educate, for example, whilst Mercury is retrograde in Aries, or your thoughts regarding how you earn money whilst Mercury retrograde is in Pisces. Now, the Mercury retrograde in Aries, it's going to be more daring and bold. There is a greater focus on goal setting, right? Goal setting. But keep in mind that Mercury retrograde will invite some interesting reflection and insights, being open to exploring, okay, what about how I educate? How can I stay a bit longer with that? What's coming through for me? How can I revisit maybe older ideas? There could be some past ideas that come up, some interesting ideas that you had in the past. And again, such ideas could be about education. So you can maybe look at the Mercury retrograde as an opportunity to revisit those. Naturally, yes, Mercury retrograde can also be about mishaps and miscommunication and all the rest of it. But still, Mercury retrograde in Aries could be this passion. Maybe such older ideas are tied to passion, right? Passionate communication, subjects and topics that you're passionate about. Then, with Mercury retrograde coming into Pisces, Mercury retrograde will take on more of this kind of imaginative, symbolic feel, and very sensitive, very emotional. So I would say with the Mercury retrograde in Pisces in particular, keep in mind Mercury is in its fall in Pisces. Things could feel quite deceptive or deceiving or confusing. So misunderstandings could certainly happen there. Not seeing things very clearly. So maybe it would be recommended to not make any big life-altering decisions about your finances, about your resources, Aquarius, especially when Mercury retrograde is in Pisces. So that's maybe just something to keep note of. But hey, it's still an opportunity to consider, again, like I was saying, the dream. I think a lot of interesting messages could come through. We think about cosmic downloads with Pisces. We think about those spiritual insights. Indeed, there could be a lot that comes through around that time. Okay, then we have the eclipse season. So throughout March, we've got the lunar eclipse in your 8th in Virgo, and we have the solar eclipse in your 3rd on the 29th of March in Aries. So the interesting thing about this is whilst the lunar eclipse in Virgo acts as a bit of an opening, the solar eclipse in Aries acts as a bit of a closing, but there's still a shedding piece, a letting go side to the lunar eclipse in Virgo. Therefore, what we could see as just an example around the lunar eclipse in Virgo is you being able to shift something about perfectionism, to again transmute perfectionism, to transform it in a healthy way, or to also maybe see significant changes to do with your shared accounts, shared finances, getting things in order there. Anything that you want to improve, anything that you want to tidy up. Then we come to the solar eclipse in Aries in your 3rd house on the 29th of March. So remember, eclipses have been occurring in the 3rd, 9th house axis, meaning many new chapters and notable changes with relation to your worldviews, your deeply held beliefs, the abstract, philosophy, learning more, just growth, really, educational growth, furthering your understanding when it comes to the knowledge you know and that you are passionate about. So much growth and change when it comes to how you actually deliver information, how you educate, just how you share. And a lot of this stuff could be on social media, again, just as an example. So the solar eclipse in Aries it's still a solar eclipse, so therefore it's about intention setting. It's about welcoming the new beginnings with relation to your voice or how you communicate, how you speak, how you share, how you educate again. But hey, you know what? This could also be notable changes, this new chapter to do with sibling relationships, connecting there. We could also look at this through a lens of relocating, maybe getting from A to B. Maybe it is that literally you have changed destinations, you have moved, significantly speaking there, or this could be about short distance travel. So some city breaks or interesting, exciting trips that you go on. And maybe a lot of that has been adventurous, very freeing. But at the same time, going further afield too, slightly, whenever we think about eclipses also happening in the 9th over the past number of months there. So yes, a lot to do with travel and movement basically here, Aquarius. So with the solar eclipse just here, we could see, again, new chapters, new beginnings to do with short distance travel. But yet, remember that because this is the final eclipse on this axis for its cycle, it's like an ending of sorts too. So take the time to maybe feel into what has came up for you, how things have shifted. Alrighty, let's now look to Neptune. So Neptune is going to enter Aries Neptune's going to enter Aries on the 30th of March. On the 30th of March, and will be direct in Aries until the 4th of July. So from the 30th of March until the 4th of July, what we're going to see for you, Aquarius, is, well, a lot of notable changes to do with your intuition. I think you're going to draw from your intuition in a whole new way. And I think you're going to innovate strongly based on your intuition. I also think that this is your opportunity to drive forward with your creativity, with your dreams, and to also show up as this courageous communicator, this confident speaker, right, with Aries, but to also come across as empathetic and compassionate, to be loving and caring, and to hopefully empathize with people in a way where you really try to get where they're coming from a deeper place, from more of a spiritual place, perhaps. Hey, this could be a case of you attracting really interesting people, people who you may feel a bit more spiritually aligned with, for example. And, we could also look at this as your imagination being pretty wild, pretty adventurous, a lot of exciting changes coming up, which you may want to move forward with, right? You can be a bit of a pioneer. You may want to innovate in some way, shape, or form. Now, do keep in mind that this is just the first part of Neptune coming into the third. So there's more to this. And we'll get to that as we explore Neptune retrograde coming up. So April time, what we see is Mercury turns direct on the 7th of April, and then Venus will also turn direct. So this is also why, with Neptune coming into the third, why it will be important to slow it down a bit and just to sit with any interesting sources of inspiration that come up, so to speak, right? Because I think with Neptune coming into the third, it could feel like you have access to just an absolute library full of ideas that are very creative, and they could also be possibly the first of their kind, or they could maybe add to previous creations, but you can repackage them in a really beautiful way. Still, with Mercury turning direct on the 7th of April, take your time. Just take your time to mull things over. It's really fascinating to me to think that whilst Neptune comes into the third, Mercury's still retrograde in Pisces. So that conversation, especially because the third house is activated and the third house is about the mind, I think the interesting thing here, the connection between the two, is a lot of the ideas, the creative spark is about finances and resources and your skills too, to a degree, your skills, your talents, things like that. Still, with Mercury turning direct, just mull things over. Take some time to sit with the information, to let it sink in. And that post shadow period will be from the 7th of April until the 26th of April. Then we come to Venus direct. So Venus will turn direct on the 12th of April. So in a similar way, we want to think about using the post shadow period from the 12th of April until the 16th of May to allow for the lessons of Venus retrograde to sink in, to integrate, to mull things over, to tie up any extra loose ends. And perhaps by doing so, there could be a few more things that come through with relation to aesthetic, art, love, beauty, creativity, connection, socializing, so on and so forth. Moving on to May. So May time, what is happening? May, we see Pluto turning retrograde. So Pluto will be in your sign for the next 20 years. Pluto re-entered your sign on the 19th of November. From the 19th of November until the 4th of May, Pluto being in your first house, Aquarius, has ushered in significant renewals to do with your identity, your life path, your aims, your goals. We see much evolution coming up, going to your depths, exploring your depths. Hopefully, as well, being able to see what doesn't serve you, what is not working for you, looking at what is being taken away, eliminated, if you will. Naturally, with that being said, this energy can be tough. It can be difficult to work with Pluto, especially whenever we feel comfortable, we feel safe. But Pluto, in many ways, is pushing you to transform. And that naturally can show up in so many different ways, depending on the Aquarius. Still, from the 4th of May until the 13th of October, Pluto will be retrograde. So Pluto retrograde invites you to look closely at the things that you fear, to address your shadow, to perhaps as well look at anything that you are resisting, possible power struggles, for example, and greater depth indeed. This psychoanalysis, perhaps, and taking even the time to review what will have happened up until that point. Which kinds of renewals and transformations will have occurred with relation to your life path and your identity. So maybe you can take some time to consider, wow, okay, I've really changed. So that within itself can be further exploration, self-exploration. Okay, so then we see Saturn, your other ruler. Saturn is your traditional ruler, Aquarius, and Saturn is going to enter the third. Saturn will enter the third, if I just get my notes, on the 24th of May. From the 24th of May until the 13th of July, Saturn comes into the third. It actually meets up with Neptune, not the same degree, but here's the thing. Saturn is about structure. Whilst Neptune, yes, is about fascination, fiction, inspiration, art, vision, euphoria, it's dreamy, it's freeing. So we could see all of these interesting insights when it comes to yourself mentally, when it comes to yourself communicatively. But Saturn brings focus. Saturn brings precision, patience, and discipline. So basically, hopefully, Saturn can bring this presence of commitment and integrity and staying at things. So even though with Neptune, it can feel like, oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless, Saturn can say, just try your very best to limit things, so to speak. This can be great, I think. The combination, basically, of Saturn and Neptune can be great if, for instance, you're someone and you possess addictive tendencies. So it may be difficult for you to resist certain things. I think about Neptune and addiction with representing addiction. So Saturn can be that force of, no, I'm not going to do it. I know what my limitations are. And to also think about it as Saturn is delayed gratification. It's interesting to consider because with Aries wants things now. It's like now, instant. And Saturn is in its fall in Aries. Maybe with good reason, if you will, because that's so opposite to what Aries is about, right? Saturn is more about, okay, longevity, stick at this, commit to this. And Aries sort of says, but I want it now. I just want to instantly act on the thing. And when I don't get my way, I'm going to get really annoyed about it. But we could see this then as healthy delayed gratification serving you, Aquarius, serving you mentally, serving you when it comes to being an educator, serving you within your relationships, thinking about even general conversation, chit chat, a lot of maturity coming about. Especially with Saturn being your ruler, this is about your personal journey. This is about your identity, your life path. So indeed, I think that Saturn coming into the third is going to welcome healthy delayed gratification, being able to set healthy limitations and boundaries. And yet, with Neptune also playing a role in all of this, Neptune still welcomes imagination and being idealistic and thinking more about the spiritual. And hopefully, with the two, themes and messages to do with wisdom come about. Wisdom when it comes to success and status and what it means to be responsible and to communicate from a place of authority or greater responsibility. To be a responsible artist, perhaps, or to be disciplined when it comes to your creativity, when it comes to these inspiring thoughts of yours when we consider Neptune playing a role. Naturally, there is so much more to this combination, and there will be the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune on the 19th of February 2026. That's not until next year, but I just wanted to mention it. So that conjunction will usher in a new 35-year cycle within your third house, Aquarius. So that, I think, could welcome a new beginning, something really exciting to do with these education adventures, so to speak. These short distance travel adventures, Aquarius. A lot of energy and passion with Aries being involved with the conjunction happening in Aries. But for now, we continue. We continue to June. And in June, what we have is Jupiter's on the move. Okay, so Jupiter's going to come into your 6th house, Aquarius, on the 9th of June. And will be there for about a year. All right, think of it like this. The Mars retrograde in your 6th gave you an opportunity to conserve your energy, to think about movement, to think about your willpower and drive when it comes to your routines, your schedules, your productivity levels, your services, your work, your occupation. So Jupiter comes along into the 6th and expands things, blesses you perhaps. Jupiter acts as this abundance, this prosperity, this inspiration, seeing the bigger picture. And so we could see this then as you really expanding and growing when it comes to your services and your work. Because maybe you took that time during the Mars retrograde to consider the steps, to step up even to older challenges, to do the difficult thing. Still, Jupiter will act hopefully as this newfound vision, this hope, this freedom, to be a bit of a free spirit when it comes to your work and services. Perhaps you truly expand your horizons within these areas, or it's that you find that the support and the care and the generosity that comes from your coworkers, that those things really matter. maybe a big focus for you will be about community, feeling like you're a part of something. I think these are the vibes, the feelings, the emotions that will be quite heavy and shown. Very much so. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, well, Sagittarius rules your 11th, right? Jupiter ruled. Could be quite exciting here. Exciting when we think about teams, wider networks, communities, and as I say, just being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, Aquarius. And you're all about that. You're all about that, right? You love it. More naturally to be said about Jupiter in Cancer, but we want to try and move this along. This is a yearly overview, trying to speed it up a bit. July. Okay, so July, we have Neptune retrograde from the 4th of July. So from the 4th of July until the 10th of December, Neptune will be retrograde. There will be a section of it in the 3rd house in Aries. So basically, Neptune retrograde just says, take some time to go within and to get curious about these dreams and these visions of yours. So to consider, right, my imagination, my creative ideas, all of these things that can feel boundless and endless with Neptune coming into the 3rd. But Neptune retrograde just says, take a step back, really feel into, okay, what am I aligned with here? What is my spiritual message? In what ways can I inspire others with my words? How can I get others to believe in themselves or to be kind to themselves, to forgive themselves? And I think at the same time, a big part of this will be about your own spiritual journey with Neptune retrograde. Indeed, spiritual insights, connection with a higher power. But that naturally, this is all really dependent on your own spiritual practices, your beliefs, your philosophies. And at the same time with Neptune retrograde, just overall, it's about introspection. And hopefully to being able to recognize what is a reality versus what's a bit more deceptive, what is an illusion, maybe coming to terms with that stuff. Saturn acting as a part of it, I think, could support you. Moving on to Uranus. Well, so very exciting. My goodness, Aquarius. Both of your rulers are moving signs. I mean, what? Both of your rulers are moving signs. And then Pluto is in your sign. Just, wow, wowza. Okay, let's go over this. Uranus, your other ruler, comes into Gemini on the 7th of July. Keep in mind that this is just a taster. It's just for a short period of time. And Uranus will come back into Gemini in 2026. 2026 is when it's going to be full steam ahead. Boom. But 2025 is like the beginning. It is the starter before the main course. So with Uranus entering Gemini in the 5th, for you, Aquarius, we're going to see major shakeups and breakthroughs to do with, well, creativity. Think about how Jupiter will have been in your 5th house throughout 2024, coming into 2025. And Jupiter has been about, well, let me broaden my understanding. Let me broaden my views, widen my scope. Look at the bigger picture when it comes to my creative projects, just as one example. Even considering how you promote, how you publish. But, and also exploring your deeply held beliefs related to these areas. But you see, with Uranus is going to act as this unexpected innovator, the awakener, the aha moments, the lightning bolt moments. And you may know all too well about this, Aquarius, because Uranus rules you, so therefore a lot of this will be about self, A lot of this will be about your identity, your life path, your aims, your goals. Very, very much so about your personal journey here. But still, Uranus comes into the fifth and shakes things up when it comes to things like your ego, how you express yourself, your individuality, your confidence. Many new ideas, thoughts, and visions could come through, and you could surprise yourself by how much you change, how much you evolve. Even combine that a bit with Pluto in your first house, Aquarius. I just think that this could be really exciting for you. There could be many exciting, interesting creative projects that you take on. Maybe a part of it is about community and joining with like minds and breaking the mold. The going down an unconventional path, the non-traditional, and perhaps even innovating in such a way where other people get talking. They maybe want to connect with you, or they spread interesting messages about your style or your methods. Naturally, this innovation stuff and the shakeups and the unexpected, the unpredictable could also be tied to your romantic relationships, pregnancies, right? Having a child, or even thinking about your children, some interesting shakeups when it comes to them. And we could also look at this as something that you once found to be fun and enjoyable, just suddenly changing like that. With Gemini, naturally, there's a dual quality to Gemini. So this could be about two or more ways of enjoying yourself, so to speak. Yeah. So indeed, I think this energy could be exuberating, very enlightening. But we also want to remember with Uranus can be so unexpected to the point that it's difficult to find a steadiness. And in Gemini, a lot of this unsteadiness could manifest as nervousness, restlessness, maybe worry or stress. So hopefully we want to be mindful of that, especially if such matters can really have an impact on your physical body. So I just wanted to mention that. There's more I could say about each transit. Hopefully, maybe I will go into more detail, but I do hope that you're finding the information to be helpful today, Aquarius. Then we see your traditional ruler Saturn turning retrograde on the 13th of July. It will be retrograde from the 13th of July until the 27th of November. So this section of Saturn retrograde in Aries, well, that's going to be a few weeks of you hopefully reviewing, okay, I've gotten a sense of how I need to mature, or how I will mature, how I will structure things, how I will build things, how I will be disciplined when it comes to communication, for example. But with Saturn retrograde, that will be your opportunity to go over the plan. It will be a good way for you to explore the structure, the foundation, to look at that systematic approach, and to also take a closer look at boundaries, intentions there, being intentional about boundaries, and to perhaps as well think more about this goal setting stuff with Aries in the third, and being practical about goal setting, being hopefully a bit realistic and gradually building. There's a gradual patient building when it comes to Saturn. So Saturn retrograde is just your opportunity then, Aquarius, to reassess these areas. And again, I want you to think about with these qualities showing up within communication settings, the delivery, your message. Again, we think about educating, your studies, your research. We could look at it through a lens of how you get from A to B, that traveling element to the third house. So for instance, if it is that you plan on maybe relocating or visiting a particular area, can you focus? Can you discipline yourself? How can you plan ahead? Get clear about these things. Then we move on. We move on to the second Mercury retrograde, and that will be from the 18th of July until the 11th of August. So I'm not going to spend too long on this, but just remember, okay, so the Mercury retrograde will be in Leo in your 7th, but just remember the Mars retrograde in Leo around the beginning of 2025, and that was your way to address your willpower and your drive and your motivations within relationships and partnerships, and thinking also about how such matters were reflected back at you through other people. But I think Mercury retrograde in Leo will show up as things like marketing, sales, trade. So 7th house is about collaboration and business partnerships. And when we think about how Mercury rules your 5th and your 8th houses, we could see this as the Mercury retrograde being a time where you review your creative projects, you review even those joint financial matters. And so if, for example, you seek to collaborate with someone else, maybe the Mercury retrograde could be an opportunity for you to put two minds together, right? It's like coming together with that other person and going over, well, what is our vision? What's our vision? Business wise, how do we want to do things? And with business out of the way, perhaps this Mercury retrograde also speaks to romance and love. Switching things up, being playful, that lightheartedness. Yeah, maybe revisiting older ideas with your romantic partner. And we think about dating, and we think about how you and your significant other, how you entertain yourselves. What kinds of activities can you do that are playful? Activities you really enjoy together. And then we come to August. And well, Mercury turns direct on the 11th of August. So from when we think about the post-shadow period, from the 11th of August until the 25th of August, after reviewing those romantic partner conversations or business conversations, just take the time from the 11th until the 25th of August to mull things over, see what other loose ends you can tie up, perhaps specifically as a couple, as a team, as a partnership. So September, we come to September, and yes, we're getting into the heart of this retrograde season, and Saturn comes back into the 2nd house on the 1st of September. So Saturn retrograde in your 2nd will be from the 1st of September until the 27th of November. So the way I'm going to communicate this is, remember that Saturn has been in your 2nd since March of 2023. Yes, there is that dip into Aries or whatever, but what we want to think about then is, what have you been building when it comes to your finances and your resources? What have you been focusing on, and how have you been disciplined? How have you been drawing from emotional maturity, spiritual wisdom when it comes to things like security and finances, for example, investing. Because what Saturn retrogrades in Pisces can indicate is, well, it's just an opportunity for you to go over what you've learned, how you have been responsible within this area of your life. So responsibility to do with finances and how you accumulate resources, thinking about possession and ownership with the second house. Sure, with Pisces, Pisces is also about the intangible, the spiritual, being able to surrender, being able to let go. Even think about how the North Node, of course, will still be there. And these then lessons about surrender and letting go and going with the flow and so on, they will still be very evident. And yet Saturn still says, well, what have you been learning though about these things? What really has came up for you? And also remember to ground yourself, to still face the reality. Hopefully not burying your head in the sand, not avoiding responsibility, avoiding the hard stuff, the difficult stuff. So if just from one example, if it is that things have been a bit more challenging financially speaking, Saturn retrograde still urges you to face the reality, to think about, okay, well, what is the foundation and how can you revisit that foundation? And think about it this way too, Aquarius. This will be the final Saturn retrograde in Pisces for the next 30 years or so. So make it count. Make your review, your analysis count. Moving on to Uranus retrograde. So Uranus retrograde will begin from the 6th of September leading into 2026. Uranus retrograde will begin from that 5th house area, and of course it will go back into Taurus, which we will get to in a moment. But all of this is to say, with Uranus retrograde, just be open to change. Be open to enlightenment, intuitive insights, different visions. And, such matters could be tied to a past experience, older innovations, older twists, so to speak. So yeah, just be open, get curious about certain changes that you can sit with, that you can revisit. Hopefully by doing so you'll be a bit more informed. And hey, this could very well be about taking a closer look at your alternative views or your unique views when it comes to things like children, romance, and creativity. Moving on to the eclipse season, the next eclipse season throughout 2024, and it will happen during September. Firstly, the lunar eclipse in Pisces will happen in your second house, and that lunar eclipse will occur on the 7th of September, Aquarius. So what we're going to see here is perhaps this release, a really notable release, a letting go when it comes to particular financial habits, or especially thinking about how you spend, how you budget, how you earn, how you invest. Yes, perhaps even reaping some significant rewards there based upon the work that you've put in, or based upon the dedication that you've shown, especially with Saturn, right? Saturn will be retrograde in the second. And we also then see that on the 21st of September, there will be the solar eclipse in the 8th house in Virgo. And that solar eclipse will invite notable changes, notable new chapters, right? New beginnings, setting new intentions here to do with shared accounts, shared resources. Maybe this is even about some significant changes to do with your partner's money. Your partner's money, and This more so could be money they receive from work. I mean, this, for example, could be work compensation. That is just one example. Naturally, there is so much more that could be said about the eclipses. I do want to remember the astrology of the eclipses, which I'm sure I will get into in their own separate videos. All right, moving on to October of 2025. And what we see is Pluto turning direct. Pluto turns direct on the 13th of October. And really, it's just your opportunity, Aquarius, to sit with the things that you address within yourself related to your identity. So after that period of greater depth and going within and addressing your fears, addressing your shadow, maybe with Pluto turning direct, there could be what feels like a renewal, a rebirth, some sort of transformation, or just greater feelings of empowerment. But just stay with things, just mull things over, process things. Then we come to Neptune retrograde entering Pisces on the 22nd of October. And similar to what I was saying about Saturn, well, Neptune has been in Pisces for a much longer period of time, since about 2011. So with Neptune retrograde here, this is the final Neptune retrograde in Pisces for many years. I mean, about 150. We're talking about 150 years or so. So with Neptune retrograde coming into Pisces, take that opportunity to think more so about, okay, well, how have I evolved spiritually speaking when it comes to my physical security and my resources and ownership? Also, how have I evolved spiritually speaking when it comes to my skills and my talents? Thinking about you valuing your spiritual practices, making spiritual practices a bit of a priority, especially with Saturn as a part of this. Plus, we could look at this as you considering how much you have changed emotionally, addressing your emotions and your bigger feelings there, your sensitivities there when it comes to the material world, the physical world, and all of the, well, the possible healing that has been performed, the ability to explore your unconscious, to look at the things that are hidden, if you will. So, indeed, I think this final Neptune retrograde, it's your opportunity to go back in and to look at and revisit these matters. And maybe you will discover some more mysteries, some more magic with Neptune. Okay. Then we come to November. And in November, we have Uranus retrograde entering Taurus. Similar theme going on, because 2025 is a year where these planets reach a new sign and then they go back to the very later degrees of the previous sign. In the case of Uranus, take the time so Uranus retrograde will enter Taurus on the 7th of November. Take the time from the 7th of November coming into 2026 to review all of those changes that have occurred within your family life, within your home life. Many unexpected shifts, shakeups, and breakthroughs, which, yes, quite honestly, have perhaps threatened your security in many ways, Aquarius. But oh my goodness, the amount of lessons. So much can be learned from your experience. So just be open. Be open to those insights. Be open to those intuitive pings and the epiphanies. The epiphanies, Aquarius. Take your time. Take your time. So Mercury, the final Mercury retrograde of the year. And Mercury retrograde will begin from Sagittarius. The retrograde will be from the 9th of November until the 29th of November. Beginning from Sagittarius from the 9th of November until the 18th of November, well, that time will be your opportunity, Aquarius, to revisit older ideas within the group, within the team, and to think about how you can spread a message with those ideas, considering even those themes to do with being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, standing up for a cause, standing up for what you believe in, a lot to do with freedom and independence. Adventure as well is highlighted. Then from the 18th of November until the 29th of November, Mercury retrograde comes into the 10th house. And so this part of the retrograde will invite an honest review, an honest analysis of your reputation, what you want to keep to yourself, what you want to keep private, but also what you want to share. What you want to share with your audience, what you want to let them know about. Good opportunity for you to perform greater investigation. Perhaps specifically not giving too much away, especially with Mercury being retrograde. You could use it as an opportunity to really reflect upon, okay, this information and this research, this data that I've collected, let me sit with it. Let me sit with it, analyze it more, make sense of it more. And when Mercury turns direct on the 29th of November, maybe you can move forward then with greater intention and being able to deliver your results, so to speak, deliver the data, deliver the research. But do remember that from the 29th of November until the 16th of December, with the post-shadow period of Mercury, mull things over. See if there are any extra loose ends that you want to tie up. Okay, so Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter retrograde in your 6th house from the 11th of November until, well, coming into 2026. Essentially, Jupiter retrograde in your 6th is your opportunity to revisit and re-examine any developments, any ways that you have expanded when it comes to things like work, your services, co-worker relationships, things like that. Just take the time to go over, right, okay, well, what have I learned so far? What are my beliefs related to work or my services? Perhaps, for example, if it is that some new opportunity presents itself to do with your schedules, your routines, you can take time to maybe revisit that opportunity, to explore it, to see if you're aligned with it naturally. It's also a good way to just evaluate to reevaluate where you're at. So even if you do take on a new considerable a new significant opportunity at work, which honestly could be really massive and exciting for you, Aquarius. It could involve adventure, it could involve you spreading your wings and trying things outside of your comfort zone to a degree. uh, Still about emotional security, of course, with Cancer. But yeah, if a certain opportunity arises and you're all for it, still Jupiter retrograde just acts as a little reminder to slow down and to reevaluate where you're at. And there could be some interesting developments that happen from that, interesting spiritual insights that come through, newfound sources drawn from maybe even older sources of inspiration. A lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom can be gained through that analysis, that reflection. Then we have, okay, so we come to the end of 2025 and we have Saturn turning direct on the 27th of November. Right, your ruler, one of your rulers, turning direct. And so use that time from the 27th of November coming into 2026 to really sit with the plan, the vision, how you will have matured massively, massively when it comes to investments and financial prospects. Yeah, I think that a lot of growth is coming, and you're already doing it. Aquarius, you're already doing it. It's just with Saturn, it's all about slow movement, step by step, easy does it. We want to be cautious, we want to be patient. But when Saturn turns direct, come the end of 2025, my goodness, you could be really moving from a place of greater solid inner authority with this hopefully calming, somewhat patient presence, because you'll be more aligned with what you want, perhaps more so spiritually. And we come to December. And December, we also see Neptune turning direct in your second house. On the 10th of December, Neptune turns direct. Take that time as well from the 10th of December coming into 2026 once more to sit with things, to integrate, to let the spiritual lessons related to value, self-worth, your skills, your talents, your finances, let them all sink in. Hopefully, Aquarius, you can take the time to appreciate what Saturn and Neptune have taught you about finances and resources and sticking at things, hopefully, committing, disciplining yourself, but yet at the same time, making time for relaxation, rest. And I guess just to close this off, it makes me think about the importance of stepping away from being productive too with Neptune. And that actually, whenever we rest, whenever we are not so focused on productivity and work and making things happen, whenever we can step back, that is just as important. It's just as important to rest and relax, to recharge, reset, to honestly reset. So, indeed, I think that these are also some interesting realizations or lessons that could come about for you. And maybe this is already what's been coming up for you, but come the end of 2025, what a long road, Aquarius. So this has been 2025 for all of you Aquarians out there. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you enjoyed your forecast for 2025, your horoscope for 2025, you can always buy me a coffee, but of course there's no pressure. I would really appreciate it though if you liked the video, if you did benefit from it, and you can subscribe for more, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye. Happy New Year.